Welcome back to our panel discussion, Better Customer Experience Builds Trust in Government, sponsored by Genesis here on Federal News Network. My guests today are Barbara Morton. She's the Deputy Chief Veterans Experience Officer at the Department of Veterans Affairs. We've got Andy Lewandowski, Digital Experience Advisor to the Federal CIO at the Office of Management and Budget. Ken Corbin is the Chief Taxpayer Experience Officer at the IRS, and Stephen Boberski, Senior Business Development Executive for Public Sector at Genesis, and I'm your moderator, Tom Temin. And before the break, we were talking about kind of what we want the citizens and the constituents to experience. Let's talk about what it takes for government to be more productive in being able to offer better customer experience. The idea of the callback queue that Stephen mentioned just before the break, the omni-channel approach, and some of the metrics so that you know internally that you are giving people what should be the experience they deserve and want. Kenneth, why don't we start with you?
Sure, thank you. And so, again, I think it comes down to choice, how customers like to get answers to their question, and then access, increasing services, forms, and tools available in multiple channels and in multiple languages. One of the things that we've implemented over the last 3 years is what we call customer callback technology. And who wants to call federal government and be on hold for 40 minutes or an hour waiting for a live assister to be able to assist them? So through customer callback, which is leveraging technology and tying it to our resources, which is our customer service representative, we've been able to have 5.3 million taxpayers receive a callback from us. But the more important measure of the experience piece of it is that taxpayers saved 1.7 million hours of hold time. So just think about that. 1.7 million hours of hold time, and pulling all of that together and then being able to think about tools when you think omni-channel. So online, offering voice bots and chat bots in more than one language is also critical to helping improve choice and access for taxpayers when they try and reach out to the Internal Revenue Service.
Yeah, so the implication there, it's really important to measure what you're getting from these investments in new technology so that you can say 1.7 million hours saved or 5.2 million callbacks.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that for our taxpayers, for, when people think about the federal government, they want to know, what's my bang for my buck? What am I getting when I invest in the federal government? And if you could look at the back end of being able to save time, that means taxpayers are able to continue to work, or they're able to do homework with their kids during the pandemic, or, take care of other opportunities while they wait for a callback instead of sitting there and holding the phone, waiting for someone to get on the line with them.
And by the way, does the IRS offer decent on-hold music?
That's one of the experiences that we have to work on. We have our assisters listen to our hold music just so they can get experience of what our customers go through. And not only do they have hold music, but we offer tips while you're on hold, but the tips are on repeat. So it's probably not the best experience for people on hold, but definitely we need to improve our music selection.
I vote for the Metropolitan Opera, but I'm just a minority of one here in that case. And Barbara Morton, let's go to you at VA. In many ways, some of the omni-channel health care delivery options map to the customer experience before the healthcare clinical setting actually starts.
Oh, yeah. And I would say, just as a sideline, I want to call the IRS. I mean, it sounds like a great experience, Ken, so I want to give the IRS a call. In terms of sort of, omni-channel experience at VA, yes, there's a healthcare component, but also, as you all know, we have a very large benefits area as well. And sort of our approach as this office in VA, we're kind of unique in the sense of we do look horizontally across the enterprise. So where we are organized in terms of org structure, healthcare benefits, memorial services, my office really tries to look holistically across to respond to what veterans and their families tell us, right, in their journey, which is, hey, where is the front door to VA, whether I'm trying to phone, use a contact agent, or whether I'm trying to, kind of go digitally online. And so what my office has done is sponsored a phone number. It's called My VA 411. And it's really a play on sort of cities that have used, a 411 number for other members of the public to dial in. And if they don't know where to go, that's kind of where they land. And so we sponsor that phone number. In addition, we also sort of sponsor this overarching strategy, which is captured in the CX executive order digitally, to make sure that va.gov is that front door. Again, if you don't know where to go, multiple web properties across the VA enterprise, va.gov is sort of your landing spot. And one of the things that I feel most sort of proud of in terms of what VA has been able to accomplish, particularly in the digital space, is the fact that we sort of took this strategic approach a number of years ago to really migrate web properties under that banner of va.gov. And we co-designed a new sort of look for the website with veterans, right? And so measuring our performance, our impact, of course, on the back end of that change, satisfaction with utilization of va.gov in that sort of updated website has increased by about 20% since 2018. So I always love to sort of showcase that as an example of proof positive. When you design with, for, and around your customer, you will always produce better experiences and results for them.
And Andy, is OMB, I guess, and maybe in conjunction with some of the other agencies like GSA, for example, is there a kind of clearinghouse on best practices, and especially in the metrics area and measurement area, so that agencies trying to fulfill the PMA call for customer experience can have resources available to them?
The Biden-Harris administration believes that we have to fundamentally meet the public where they are. So this focus on omnichannel is not just focused on traditional ways of getting information, but also meeting the members of the public where they are. For example, in the veteran space, healthcare, we saw improvements over the pandemic with the ways that veterans interacted with their healthcare providers. And traditionally, before the pandemic, many of those veterans and their caregivers would have to go in person to a VA medical facility. Now it's standard practice to offer for many of the specialties care over telehealth or through other community support measures. One of the things that we're looking at in the president's management agenda in regards to performance or measurement is post-transaction trust. So when we look at our customer journey, the end-to-end journey, we have each touch point, moment, transaction mapped end to end. And so what we're challenging our high impact service providers to do is to actually measure immediately after each transaction or communication, trust in that service, right? We could have the greatest human-centered designers, UX designers, digital product designers, the best technology systems, the best call center scripts for our agents. But if that customer did not have a great transaction, that one moment that mattered in their journey, we lose trust with the public. So we got to start with the basics, which is trust for each transaction or touch point. And then depending on the channel, whether it's digital, whether it's over the phone, call center, whether it's in person in a field office, there are other ways that we can measure performance and customer experience satisfaction.
Interesting. So, Stephen, are there good best practices for that idea of post-facto data collection? And you mentioned artificial intelligence earlier, and it seems like there must be a role for machine learning in all of this to sort of make sense of all the feedback on a rolling basis as you get more and more data.
That is, in fact, exactly where I was going to go. So you must be reading my notes. So machine learning is critical, right? So as you look at how technology is advanced in the customer experience, right? Started as a call center, then became a contact center with multi-channel, right? So you had email, you had chat, you had web interactions, but they weren't tracked independently. They were all tracked independently in different queues. Now there's omni-channel, which means it doesn't matter what the media is. It's all considered the same contact. And so whether it's chat, phone call, email, it's tracked in the same queue. You can grab the same metrics out of it. So now it's treated equally as a source of data. But how quickly can you analyze it? So the analytics side of this is the part that has to grow as quickly as all this data that's being gathered, because many of the agencies have now implemented the next generation of technology. Omnichannel is not new technology to them. Trying to introduce AI and self-service is not new to them. But the analytics side, which is critical, which is dynamic machine learning, where you can actually create the ability to come up with a satisfaction score just based on the time of the call, all the way down to speech analytics and inflection of the voice, whether the ticket was closed within a period of time. If you hear keywords like yes, I am, if you get to ask the agent, all those things, as well as, automating a survey to go out afterwards for a certain percentage of calls, or ensuring that there's an email campaign that's tied to a response that you can track. All of these things are available today, but how to leverage that technology in a timely and cost-effective fashion is the challenge, right? So machine learning certainly is the key there, right? Because it is adaptive, it is dynamic. Part of empathy as a service is that learning and then reapplying what you've learned. That goes the same way with just all data, right? Which is, I've seen this persistently happen. What can I learn? I can probably come up with eventually a score that we will value as legitimate without having to ask the customer directly. But in the interim, if you do capture that, you want to make sure it's available. All these things are available today, but it's very quick in development. And so, every agency are playing catch up. Funding can be a challenge, but the technology is there today, and the ability to deliver is there today. What is out there, though, is a large amount of data that needs some consolidation.
So Kenneth, what's the IRS approach, or what's your philosophy with respect to having this need in mind and having the data that somehow you understand can help that need, but there's something that's got to be bridging all of this to a front end, I guess you will, and maybe there's some intergovernmental aspects to this question too of forming new applications for CX out of the raw material that we have.
So I think the bridge, or we like to say building those connections, really comes from a modernized IRS. And so, we have a project underway called Enterprise Case Management, and it does exactly what we're discussing here, where if you interact with us on irs.gov, you call us, you come into a walk-in location, that interaction is captured and tied to your account so that the next person who you speak with at the IRS is able to understand your journey, is able to understand what you've experienced and what are the questions that you have coming in the door. Also using, intelligence to help us understand and better predict what a taxpayer's interaction may be. So one of the things that we've done in the last filing season is introduce what we call to our individual filers a new schedule. It's called a Schedule LEP. And it allows a taxpayer at the point of filing to identify what language they are most comfortable in interacting with the IRS in. And so today, when you select this particular schedule, if you receive a notice from the IRS, it will come in the language that you selected. And this allows education and access to be able to do that. In the future, as we think about customer experience, we want to take that indicator that we now have in your filing so that when you call the IRS and you give us your Social Security number, the information needed, that'll automatically trigger to the assister and route you to the right area that if Spanish is the language that you're comfortable in, you will get a Spanish-speaking assister. You won't have to go through a menu selection to decide that you need a different language. And so taking that data that we get up front and using that data in an interactive and useful way will provide a better experience for you when you reach out and talk to the IRS, whether on the phone, online, or in person. That will be an automatic trigger so we're able to communicate with you effectively. So that's just one example of I see data working better for us.
Yeah, a great one. Barbara, maybe also discuss at VA, are you looking at that case management approach for that front end?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think the common thread, a theme running through these segments is the data, right? The back end data, which may not be the splashy thing to talk about, but really is the engine to enabling all of these incredible advancements with experience. And so for us at VA, very similar strategy. You certainly have this kind of enterprise wide strategy for contact centers, digital, but everything powering behind that is the integrated back-end data. And one of the things that we've been able to do over the last number of years to kind of, in the digital space, revamp what we call the VA profile. And that's really an ability for veterans to log in on va.gov and have that personalization. They can update their name and contact information and address in that one location, so that can then be propagated across the enterprise. In terms of contact centers as well, again, we've sort of tried to institute a strategy across the many hundreds of contact centers in VA, so the agents similarly will see that same information from a veteran caller, so they don't have to do the repeat. So I would say it's certainly a multi-year journey, but we certainly are on that path as well.
All right, interesting. And we're going to continue with the discussion right after this short break, but we do need to break for a moment. My guests today are Barbara Morton. She's Deputy Chief Veterans Experience Officer at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Andy Lewandowski is the Digital Experience Advisor to the Federal CIO at the Office of Management and Budget. Kenneth Corbin is the Chief Taxpayer Experience Officer at the IRS, and Stephen Boberski, Senior Business Development Executive for the Public Sector at Genesis. I'm Tom Temin. This discussion is Better Customer Experience Builds Trust in Government, sponsored by Genesis here on Federal News Network.